a short introduction. So I'm going to read out your bio, and
Mhm.
maybe you can, I don't know, just share a little, just, very short. So because people, maybe some people know you, maybe some people don't know you from my channel, I don't know. So
Yeah,
most who I work with are basically on the path of awakening to their true nature, and so, or just being, as you call it. And yeah, and that would be amazing if you just can share a little bit how you got where you are. And maybe if there is something specific, I have a few questions. We just see where it
yeah,
goes.
yeah,
I have
yeah, absolutely.
like another 1 hour, 45 minutes. So we have like
Okay.
time. How
Yeah,
about you?
perfect. Yeah, that's perfect. Perfect, my friend. Excellent.
Okay, sounds amazing. I can already feel the energy. I mean, I already felt it before I sat
Yeah.
down. It's so strong.
We're swimming in this. And I mean that's the beauty of the unity, right?
Mm,
When we commune with this, it's undeniable. And for many people that are in this space, when they meet this resonance, it can be intimidating. It's quite frankly, because you
hmm
meet people that are still driven by their ego and they want to be able to hold that resonance that you're transmitting, and it unravels their own sense of self instead of moving into it and embracing it and embodying what it is that you're holding. The egoic state of most humans will be intimidated because they're on that same path. And I'm sure you've come across this many times when you're on this path and you're here to be in service and help people remember who they are. Yet this attracts people that want, it's almost like they want what you are transmitting, yet they're not prepared to do what is required to obtain that transmission. And so then it becomes a deficiency. And then you find these people that are more conflicted. And you see that because that's really what we're dealing with energetically. We're dealing with this confront. It's like a confrontation because you
Yeah.
have to meet yourself. It's what we call the selfishness to the selflessness requires the sacrifice. And that's where people get, oh, what does that mean? Well, they know what it means because it evokes that emotional state that is in lack of and is deeply inverted into their flesh. And then they have to meet that because the transmission you're putting out is welcoming them back to that wholeness. It's going, come back here, remember who you are. And then what happens is, oh no, the resistance. If this was a Star Wars movie, the Empire to the rebels, where are we meeting this center point? And it's fascinating to watch how human beings embrace or repel from the very experience.
I mean, I love the way how you describe it, because this is exactly how I see it as well. But I have to say, I meet a lot of people who are very willing to meet that. And so
And
when I
that's
work with them,
beautiful.
yeah, it is very beautiful. So they are absolutely amazing, and I'm basically helping them to meet their stuff. And I also help to kind of clear and heal it. I just call it like that. Clear those energies out of the system, make them aware, so that they can go. I open up the system so that these energies just can leave, so that they can meet their center point, as you call it. Yeah, beautiful. I mean, it's. I love. You know what I love? I love when you are from the Taoism path, and I do my work, and then we talk about the same thing with different words, but we know exactly what we're talking about, and this is what I love. So, yeah,
I
yeah,
love it too, my friend. Yeah.
yeah, nice. Okay, so I'm just gonna introduce you
Mhm.
really quickly. Okay. So, hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today for this amazing interview. I have an absolutely amazing guest, and I'm going to read out a short introduction so that you know who he is. So, his name is San Qing. He's a Taoist master and a profound healer. When he talks, there is something else that goes on in the room. The room is filled with light and love. I can already feel that. There is so much energy present. It's so amazing. I love that. San has over 30 years experience guiding people, teaching people, opening people up to their true potential as a human being, as a light being, and just being. He is an ordained priest and 66th generation lineage holder and 126th generation lineage holder of Taoism. San is a Taoist master of Qigong, and Neigong is a prolific channel and healer who has built a reputation for direct access to the spiritual realm. We're going to talk about that today because I'm very interested. He's grateful every day to his teachers, the three pure ones and the Tao, for allowing him to witness miracles. San works with people from all over the world, showing them that the impossible is possible. So welcome, San.
Thank you, my dear friend. It's so great to be here. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you today.
Yeah, me too. And it's so great to meet again. So I'm just going to share a little bit how we met. So you had me on your podcast. You invited me to be on your podcast, The Weight 126, a few weeks ago, but the episode is not out yet. So it's going to be out probably in the next few weeks, right?
Yeah, oh yeah,
Yeah, amazing. This is how we met, and I really enjoyed and loved the conversation and meeting San, and also the energy that was created while our conversation was happening. And it was so profound. So I thought, okay, it would be amazing to have you on my channel as well, so that people who are following my YouTube channel can benefit from this as well and get to know you. So thank you very much for being here today.
So grateful. Thank you,
Yeah,
my friend.
nice. Yeah, maybe let's start at the beginning, or can you just share a little bit about yourself and your past so that people get to know you a little bit?
Yeah. It's always like a revelation when we really have an epiphany that makes a clear path of what it is that we're walking on. What are we seeking? What are we looking to find? And then ultimately, what is the goal? Because I mean, these are general mechanisms for human beings, sort of like conditioning, and what they wanted to sort of derive from their reality. So, it started off when I was 4. I used to be really obsessed because I spent a lot of time alone, being a latchkey kid from a single parent. She was pursuing a different sort of career, and I was left to my own devices. So I do things like realize I could see through my hand, look through into another wall, into the next room, look into people's bodies, all these types of fantastic sort of things. And no one was really telling me it wasn't possible or possible. I sort of sat with that, and I found it fascinating, which drew me to superheroes. And so that made it even more fascinating for me. And I was like, well, of course, superheroes are completely normal because I can do all these weird things that seem superhuman, and they were very regulated for me. They were like, oh, well, I just think it and it becomes reality. So through my childhood, I became obsessed with bodybuilding and powerlifting because I wanted to look like a superhero. And that led me into discovering at the end of my teenage years, I had a voice in my head that told me I needed to go and find meditation. I'd spent 10 years devoted to nutrition, competition, bodybuilding, powerlifting. At the age of 15, I competed for the first time. I was at 187%,
Oh, wow.
187 pounds at 4% body fat. So this physical conditioning was very much in line with how you activate your energy body. And people don't feel into that tactile effect. The flesh is so critical to ground yourself to then pop off the basically cascade and the extended state through the energy potential. You must ground yourself into the ground of the earth with the physical effects. And most people tend to get caught in, mental, emotional, and these two energy areas here, the upper and middle dantian, which leaves them in lack of this physical effect, which leads to more problems as you continue your journey. In any case, intuitively, this is how I started. At the age of 19, I went and I was like, oh, you know what? I need to do this meditation thing. This voice in my head told me that, hey, why don't you find this meditation? Because the bodybuilding is taking a lot of toll on the physical body. It was like, there's too much going on. I'm feeling like the hubcaps are coming off the wheels. There's a lot of pressure going on in the flesh. And so in those days, back in those days, I would think of things like, meditation is Hare Krishnas, hippies, hairy armpits, alfalfa sprouts, all this kind of stuff. And so I didn't have any yes or no version of what it was. So I pursued that. I found a teacher. I sat in the class for the first time, and I was basically confronted with this potency where I thought I was going to get nothing out of it because my idea was, it's about stilling the mind. I was too consumed with all the things that were going on around me. For greater detail in this story, you can go back and listen to other podcasts. I would love to get more into things that my dear friend wants to talk about. But in essence, what happened was I captured and stopped sound for 15 to 20 minutes. Never meditated before in my life. Instantly, it took place. I was like, this is the secret source. I have found the power within. And it was so profound. And so it led me into the next day where literally I found a channeling class. I channeled my teacher, Latsu, that is in concert with on a second-by-second basis today, that I've had for 36 years. It's like, this is a long time. I channeled him immediately. That teacher had a meltdown because they'd been pursuing it for 60 years as a channel teacher. And this big lug who looked like a behemoth walks into his class, and he was very reluctant. He was like, "What are you doing? You're not supposed to be here." And I'm like, "I'm here for the channeling." He's like, "No, you need to go." And so I sat down, and literally like a lightning bolt, you understand how potent the energy is. And when you're harnessing that as a source and you're transmitting it, it's second to none. As you can feel it now, you're feeling the essence of that potency. We're experiencing it. We're in this commune right now. Now, this happened like a lightning bolt. My whole body just expanded. It was like people were getting sticks out with marshmallows, cooking them from the transmission, because it was an integration. It was a remembrance. Mm-hmm. And so instantly I witnessed seeing this old dude with my eyes open, as clear as I see you, and I could hear his voice. And I honestly thought I was having a psychotic break. There was nothing more to it, but I was not having any control over this transmission. I was literally as if I was the observer sitting back, and all this energy and information is coming through me. And I'm like, I am literally going out of my mind. And so what happened was, as a child, all my friends were pursuing all these other things where they were caught up in psychonautic sort of drugs, LSD, pot, all that kind of stuff. I completely changed my path. I had 20 friends that were a little group niche of friends. And by the time I was 15, most of them were deep into ecstasy, LSD, pot, all this kind of stuff. And I'd be sitting in the corner of the room while they're partying because I was the designated sober one, reading a muscle and fitness magazine. And one of my friends came up to me and said, "Listen, you got to go." And I'm like, "But what? We've been friends since we're kids." "You're a buzzkill, bro. You got to leave. If you're not taking the drugs, you got to go." And I was like, "Okay, all right." Now, by the time I was 19, out of 20 friends, 19 of them had committed suicide.
Oh, my goodness.
And so I had a real fear, because that was something that was ignited within me. I don't want to have a psychotic break or lose my mind the way my friends did. And so when I did this channeling thing, I thought but I did all the right things. I didn't take the drugs. I didn't do anything. And now I'm being like in this moment, profoundly seeing visions of things that are not diluted. Like they're as clear and as vivid as I see you. And still to this day, it's the same. Now, from that,
when you channel your teacher, you see me with your eyes open?
Yeah. Oh, he's right here right now.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's a potency, because the more, it's like anything, it's like a conditioning. There's an adaptation, a stress, and then an expansion that takes place with this type of stuff. Just as you have mastered all your training, you can master these things. Absolutely. There is no exception. So your curiosity, my friend, if that's something that you're into, I will show you a few little things that you could enhance your own experience. And that could be part of your repertoire. It's determined by the individual, but the conditioning and the training and the method is available to anyone. And so once you start to focus your attention and intention, potency presents itself and it becomes a permanent, tangible substance. It's not transitory or delusional. It's real. Mm-hmm. And so from that moment, I then went to the next day. I was like, this teacher is also teaching me clairvoyance, distance healing. And I was like, you know what? I'm in so deep. It was like, imagine being deluded and you really don't really know what's going on. I was like, okay, so the next day, this guy teaches me clairvoyance. And I'm in at this point because I think I'm losing my mind. This person can give me answers. Let me continue this path. And so he gives me these techniques that I'm supposed to apply to an interaction with someone when you're reading their information. And he's like, you're not going to get this, but let me just share it with you because, I mean, you know, you're 2 days in. There's no way this is going to happen for you, right? And I'm like, okay. Now, I think what's most important for most people is to identify things when you approach things, look at things. And my go-to is accept everything at face value, be childlike in your nature. And all of a sudden, these things just come through. They're not limited by, well, you have to have this certain mindset. You need to be conditioned. It's an acceptance. It's a now moment. And so were you going to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, like, sometimes when somebody just points a possibility out and you look into that direction, you see it. And before you weren't even looking because you didn't even know it's there. Yeah. So this is definitely my experience. Yeah.
Yeah. And so he gave me the rundown and he goes, these are the things that you're looking for. You know, right now you're hearing and listening to Latsu, and he could measure that energy. He couldn't see Latsu, but he could measure it and go, oh my goodness, he's in the room. I can feel the temperature change in my body. I feel the visceral effects. And he's like, well, at this point, I mean, this guy, he thought this guy is so insane. What am I going to do? It's like, this is the one weird person that I've come across in 60 years that just seems to get it immediately. He was resistant. So when he gave me the clairvoyant thing, I went over it and he goes, okay, give me a reading. I'm like, oh, okay. You know,
yeah.
I mean, the list is here. This is what I'm looking for. This is how it is. And this will come back to what we spoke about when it comes to grids and understanding these things and what you put out and how you create this stuff. Was very much in line with this specific method. And so I took a look at his aura, and then he goes, give me something. What are you experiencing? What are you seeing? What are you hearing? I'm like, okay. There's an entity. Oh, an entity. Yeah. And it's telling me that if you don't continue to give it the students that you've been sacrificing for their energy for the last 10 years since you started the contract with this entity, it's going to take your life. And so, whoa, 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 whoa. And he freaked out. He goes, get up, get up, get up, move in the other room, in the other room. And so I'm getting up going, I don't know. Okay, get inside, sit down. Where did you get this from? I'm like, you asked me to do a reading on you. This energy instantly came in. And to be quite honest, it doesn't look that pretty, to be really clear to you. Like, I'm looking at this thing and it's looking pretty ominous. And he's like, well, what else did it say? I said, well, let me ask. And basically I said to him, if you don't continue to do this, the best thing for you to do is to step away and save your mortality and just relinquish whatever this superpower that you are obtaining through the sacrifice of your students' energy. And he's like, I've been working on this for quite some time and I just can't let go of it. And then I started sitting there going, what? And I didn't process what he was doing. It was more the fact that I got it right. I was like, oh. And he's like, and he's telling me this whole thing like a cathartic confession. And I'm not concerned about that. I'm more like, did I get that right? And he's like, I want to work on myself. I really want to let go. No, 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 no. Did I get that right? And he's like, yes. And it's like an epiphany. You understand the first time you meet the energy and the information comes back to you and it's instantaneous. It's not seconds later. It's not weeks later. You know, there is a knowing that bouncing from belief to knowing is so potent, and it shows from experience, right? And so I was blown away. I was blown away. And it wasn't me ousting him, but in the end, 6 months later, I had him in my arms and he died from brain cancer.
Mm-hmm. So he
Because
couldn't
he
let go.
refused to let go.
Yeah.
He refused to let go of this. And it's like, I would say to the audience, the most important thing is to remember this is your creation. Everything you're experiencing is yours. It's not mine. It's not Eva's. It's yours. And if you do not realize that you are creating this, you will very quickly, because the more and more you're being met with a resonance that we put out, you're going to experience a knowing, and all of a sudden, your intention creates, and it may not be what you're looking for, but your potency is you're activating the energy, and the more and more you realize you are a master at this already, you'll start to sort of like go, okay, let me integrate this slowly into my reality, because an activation like the one Eva gives you is got to be very careful, because it's potent. You're going to be expansive immediately, and that what you put out as a transmission and a grid will instantly activate their energy potential. And so if they're in doubt, that doesn't require, their personality is not required for this connection, this intimate symbiosis that comes with the electromagnetism. This is the now moment. So now you need to understand the mechanisms that are required for you to maintain that within this material state. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I have to say the energy that comes in or I'm working with, I programmed it to work in the favor of the human experience as well, because, you know, I know when these energies come in and show you all your stuff, it could be quite overwhelming. And how you experience your life could, like, be very dark and in a negative way. But when the energy looks after the human aspect, it's a lot easier. So it's nurturing the human. It helps the human out to meet all this stuff, and in a easy way. So yeah, I definitely work in that kind of way. Looking after the human aspect. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so important.
Mm.
Ambassadors like yourself are critical to the moving the needle for humanity in this time right now on planet Earth. It's necessary, and people will meet that. They'll meet their own potency through this interaction, through incredible wisdom teachers like yourself. This will be met, and people will become more aware. As they put it, consciousness will be the now moment. And so from that day, I went the next day straight into distant healing, and similar effect. Instantaneously, I just get finished with a training, and I get home. And back in those days, it's called a rotary phone, right? This old school type
Yeah.
of thing. And so a friend of mine calls me up and says, hey, look, I'm not going to be able to make it. I can't hang out with you. I'm really sorry. I sprained my ankle. And I'm like, okay, all right, well, whatever. We'll catch up next week. And then I was like, whoa, stop. She's like, what do you mean stop? Hang on a second. I was learning this technique today. She's like, really? It's called distant healing. How about why don't I apply it to you? See what happens. And she's like, really? Really? Are you really going to waste my time? And I'm like, no, 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 no. Can you hear me out? Let me go through it. There's a few steps that I have to do. And then in the end, I'm going to speak this thing. They call it a incantation. I'm going to speak it, and just don't think anything of it. Let's see what happens. And she's like, just hurry up. I'm in pain. I'm not having a good time. I just want to rest this ankle. All right. So I go through it, and then I'm like, the incantation is so like benign. It's like heal, 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 heal. And then the next minute on the other end of the phone is what? She starts screaming. She starts screaming through the phone, and I'm like, whoa, 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 what happened? My ankle shrunk before my very eyes, and the swelling is gone. I'm standing on it right now, and I'm like, bullshit. You're full of shit. No. Honestly, what happened? I am telling you, whatever sort of instantly dissolved my ankle. I'm like, no, sorry. I want to believe you, but I mean, I'm not there. And now you're just messing with me, right? But at this point, I'm so delusional from the last couple of days. I'm like, what the heck? At this point, whatever. So I go over to her house, and she's a Polaroid fanatic. So she takes photos of everything. So she took a photo of her ankle. When I went through a door, she ran up to me and gave me a big hug. And I was like, okay, what's going on? And her mother was in the room at the time. What's happening? And she's like, take a look. Photo, standing on it. I feel amazing. And the mother's sitting there, and she's literally like puffing away. Back in those days, it's no secondhand smoke, right? And she's standing there, and she's like, and I'm like, I don't know what to make of this. I mean, at this point, I didn't explain to her the psychotic breaks that I'm having, but I needed a distraction. I need something to keep me gathered together, contained. Yeah, of course, if anyone's ever had, a glass of wine and you feel, oh, I'm completely sober, I can do it. No, you realize you're in a place where you kind of like are about to blend into another state of relaxation, or lose control of what you think is control. And so when she said that, and her mother's puffing away, and I'm like, this is amazing, this is incredible, I mean, this is unbelievable. And then the mother's puffing away, and she goes, I always knew you were a healer. And I'm like, whoa, what are you talking about? She's sitting there, and she looks like a bloated whale. I'm going to be very honest. I'm not I don't shame people, but her physical appearance would lead you to believe she wasn't taking very much care of the vehicle. She'd drink a bottle of vodka, a pack of cigarettes. That was her normal remedy for a day. And so that led me into, I don't do doctors. Now, this woman was very affluent. She had a lot of resources. So she always had people pandering around her, telling her what she wants to hear. And I don't think she'd seen her feet for like 20 years, right? And she's like, I've got this thing bugging my foot. I want you to come over tomorrow and heal it. I'm like, whatever at this point. I mean, sure, I'll come over. I mean, I'm going insane. What else could happen? This is it. And so I end up over at a house, and in a long story short, when I pulled her sock back, and she can't see, her stomach is like this. And she's just sitting up on her throne, puffing away, getting her vodka. Everyone's pandering around, and she's got a housekeeper, an assistant. No one's going to tell her no. We've all come across these people before.
Yeah.
And so I get down there, kneel down. She can't even see me. She's like, what's going on down there? And I pull the sock off. And I kid you not, it was gangrenous. And I was like, in my mind, I'm like, what? We need to get this woman to a hospital right now. And I've got Latsu just in my periphery, and I'm looking up at him, and he's like, no, we're not. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? What do you mean, no, we're not? And I'm having this, I'm hearing him, and I'm talking to him telepathically, because, of course, this one would think I was insane. And so I'm like, okay, what does that mean? He goes, no, you're going to witness a healing. And I'm like, sure. And so this woman literally sat there. I watched the gangrenous flesh go back to pink in color in 40 minutes.
Really? Wow.
And that's it. That was my entree. And from that day, that was the fourth day in. On the fifth day, what all this did was evoke what someone would call a dark night of the soul. I literally went on a turbulent hurricane, tornado equivalent to every thought, every feeling, every emotion at once for 5 days straight. By the third day, suicide was absolutely on the table. I was like, you know what? I've done something. I avoided it through all my friends. All my friends passed away. They were met with this diminished return. And I guess I did it too. Without taking the drugs, I'm like, I've gone insane. And I got through the fifth day. I got hold of my teacher, and he's like, wow, that's amazing. That's what we call a breaking. I'm like, I don't think you understand what that feels like. Like I was so, it would evoke viscerally through my body a turbulent change. So I'd try and distract myself because all this pressure, everything is coming in. And I would go to the movies. And I distinctly remember going to the movies thinking anything I could do to distract my mind because it's just everywhere. It's like all this wave of depression, thoughts of all this chaos, everything going on at once. And so I go to the movies and I sit down, and something as benign as a naked woman walking across the screen. I mean, how benign is that? I threw up on the person sitting in front of me. It had that much of a visceral effect, and I thought, this is unreal. And so I made it through that, and now with the experience that I have, that evoked my desire to pursue Taoism because Lao-Tzu was my teacher. It's like, you need to go into the roots. So from that, I found teachers. I went to China, I became ordained. And now 30 plus years later, here we are in a nutshell. I think that's sort of pertinent, the progression, because it was a wham bam. It wasn't a lead up. It wasn't curiosity. I was literally hit with a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 punch within the course of 5 days of all the healing and the meditation to 5 days of transformation. So probably equivalent to about 2 weeks of unreal turbulence that turned into a profound knowing. And I was like, I need to go. I need to discover what that means. And let's just like, well, go back to your roots. You've been doing this for thousands of years. I'm like, at this point, I agree with whatever you're saying. I believe you. Whatever you're saying, I believe you. So that led me to where I am today. And, it's so potent to be at one with your information. And that's part of the Taoist path, is seeking that to knowing it through your experience.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing. I mean, what a profound journey. And these 2 weeks of your experience were absolutely profound. Everything happened so fast. So absolutely amazing. Thank you very much for sharing. And yes, I totally agree. Experience, comes first, or ideally, and then we look for answers. Because if it happens the other way around, then we already like limit ourselves. So that's very amazing that it unfolded in that way for you. So really cool. And I'm so curious. So Latsu is there right now and he's just witnessing this. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you can feel his presence.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
the thing. You have the potency to feel the resonance and the intricacies of all different energy profiles. This is a mastery that you have created with yourself. And
Yeah.
that it's not part of the personality. This is a mastery of remembering and returning to that fullness, that unity that we within Taoism we call the primordial mother.
Yeah. Okay. And there is actually the question I have. So because in your bio you say you're helping people on the human level, so with the human being, the light being, and just being. So just being is the absolute, right? So the Brahman, or the true nature, as I call it.
Yes. Let me
And
let me put this in here.
yeah,
Sorry, I want to
no,
make
no,
it so.
that's fine.
Yeah.
And then I'm very curious about the light being aspect,
Right.
because this is something I became aware of recently, this aspect of myself. So I'm light. I'm from somewhere and I have a story, I guess, on that level. And it has an agenda, this light, and it's very beautiful light. And it's now coming forward. So my journey was towards the true nature, so that the Brahman, so this was the journey first. And now it seems like this light aspect is opening up. So I know I'm a light, and there is now this curiosity for this realm, for the spiritual realm, and for everything that's there. And I had quite a few experiences as well lately in these realms as me being this light. And I just have the question, so is that what you also experience as the light being in yourself?
Oh,
Can
yeah.
can you
I
can
mean,
you talk about this a little bit, about
yeah,
your
yeah,
light
sure,
aspect? I'm
sure.
very curious. Yeah.
Yeah. So So when you look at a Taoist model of ascension and the ecosystem that we all experience as we're on that path of self-realization, we start with what we call the primordial mother, the void. The void is the animation to the consciousness. The consciousness is the animation to the Shen we call the spirit. The spirit is the animation to the energy. The energy is the animation to the body. And you are able to move through those states of awareness. So the body would consist of everything from psychological to emotional states, physiological states. They're all integrated into that same basement level awareness. And as you activate the potential through that ascended state, the energy becomes this so potent. And within the doorway between the Shen and the consciousness is four other ascended levels of awareness that integrate gold, platinum, and silver, the earth, the sun, the moon, and of course, Jing, Qi, and Shen.
So there are four levels between the human and the absolute. There are four levels.
Between the Shen and the absolute. So so you have void, which animates consciousness. Consciousness is the present moment.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah.
animation behind it. Consciousness animates Shen. Shen is the spirit. So the spirit, between that, within a Taoist path, are four levels of ascension that return to the whole. So as you're returning, you will return to whole, which is the highest point, which is 9. From the one that's the whole, the mother creates the 2, that is the divine feminine. The 2 creates the 3, that is the divine masculine, so on and so forth. But with an ascended state, that realization of wholeness within everything, we have this symbiosis. We refer to it as the bellows. So everything is contracting and expanding at the same time. So you become whole, you return whole, and then you birth again. And you can access that. When you're accessing your potency, like the chill and the charge we're getting right now, we're embodied in this experience right now. Everyone listening, everyone witnessing will experience this visceral, kinesthetic, somatic experience. It's tangible. This is what some of my parapsychologist friends would call psychokinesis. It is a palpable, what we call a substance. We call the Fa Jun. And this is what gives you evidence, which is so necessary to go from a seeker to a believer to a knower. You must be able to transition through that states of awareness. So that 4-level shift between the Shen and consciousness is a development that embodies the in and out. So you will literally experience complete light and then complete darkness, which is the polarizing effects of that material state within this electromagnetism. So you're going to go, I'm complete light, and then you're going to feel complete darkness, which would seem to be a diluted state, but in actuality, you're blending the two together. And so from all that light is the reflection of the inverted state of the yin. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I will share you my words, and you let me know if I understood it
Yeah.
in the correct way. So I
Yeah.
see the light aspect. It's very like it's very potent, very strong. So it's a lot of light, and then so I would have probably said I see on the human level now more the shadow sides, like on the human level. So this is probably what you're talking about, but I feel like it's on the human level. It's like in the light aspect area, there is only light. Like I don't see darkness there, and I feel like if there would be, I couldn't like there is no resonance for darkness. Like I couldn't really see it.
Well,
It's just that.
when you look at the darkness, it's just like what we are talking briefly about eating habits.
Mm,
Like that energy is it is like yin is not darkness. Yin is just the absorption of all colors. Yang is the emission of all colors. So what you're experiencing is you are everything. That light body is the admission of all the colors, all the frequencies, everything at once. But from that, you still have the inverted version of that, which is still as potent. It doesn't diminish. It's just about you discovering what that relationship means to you, because so many people will attempt to avoid it, only to realize that it is just as potent. And honestly, it may not be a conscious thing, and more likely than not, it is not. When you say you don't see darkness, that is something that is operating outside of your next level. When you hit the next level of consciousness, just from this conversation, it will present itself, but you'll realize it's as beautiful as the light is.
Mm-hmm.
It's not any different. And it's just another facet of yourself that you'll be like, hang on a second, whoa, this is just as potent. Whoa. And so many people embody this from a humanistic perspective, and you'll see the needle move variably because we're operating in this material state. Some would call it a 3D, a 4D, however you want to perceive it, a realm. There is what we call a currency. The currency is electromagnetism. So your potency as consciousness, furthermore, as the void, as the primordial mother, what you would call cosmic consciousness, Brahman, it all trickles down within this symbiosis in this material state that you can then transmute as unified. And it will have this variable. As you look at the diamond of perfection, we call it, you'll see the different facets. And those facets will show themselves. And when you see that facet, that is complete absorption of yin energy, which is absorption of all colors, it will not be anything other than the equivalent resonance to the light that you're experiencing. And it's like, that's the next exciting part for you to discover, is that it's just as potent, and they can be met. They are met. Like what you're experiencing is a merging of the two, but you're seeing it as the light. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I guess from where you see it, it makes a lot of sense. From where I see it right now, I kind of understand what you mean, but like I don't have an experience of it, so
Sure,
intellectually I understand it.
sure.
Yeah, yeah,
Well, you're
okay.
about to, because you're
Yeah.
asking for it. Because you're asking for it, you're going to experience it and be like, whoa,
Hmm.
I thought that was strong. I thought
Okay.
that light body was strong. Holy moly. And because really alchemy in itself is a relationship with you, so the source energy, and what they call the dark arts. It's not a dark art in an ominous level. Dark arts means you are now working with the potency of the divine mother, which is void. It's black. It's nothing. It's when I look at you, I see nothing but a black drop, and you are the center point. You are the jewel. And so there's nothing behind you, there's nothing around you, it's just complete void. And so my attention, intention will harness whatever I choose to contain, and it will present itself from a resonance level. And so we're not seeing a backdrop of whatever you would see with your naked eye. And that's just a level of sensory development that is available to all of us. But many people walk the path of going, oh, well, what we see is like 1% of what we can see or potentially experience. But you're already experiencing 100% more than 99% of the population, if not 99.9% of the population. So that mastery exists within your path. So it is absolutely possible. What you're experiencing is absolutely possible. And it shows others that it's possible. And you go, whoa, I thought that was just something I read in a book. And now he was showing me the potency of this. And this is so important, to be able to show people that mastery, and what you're sharing with others gives them evidence that makes them go, okay, you got me. This is real. I have no choice other than to change how I perceive reality, because I'm never the same. The old expression, once you see it, you cannot unsee it. It's the same thing here. The same thing as you're experiencing with this relationship with light, you will experience the darkness, which is yin. Void is different. Void is the completed unified state. Yin and yang is light and dark, which is, again, yin is the absorption of all colors, yang is the emission of all colors. Same thing.
Mm-hmm. So, in my words, the Brahman, the absolute, is the void, which is a very nice place. Like I really like it there, you know. And in creation, we have yin and yang. In what you're experiencing, it has to be there, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So it's in
And it
creation.
shows itself like someone that would commit too much. Like if you were coming across a healer, right? And they commit too much to their path, and they're having diminished returns, which many healers have those diminished returns. You probably come across them because you have to re-up them, charge them with the potency and resonance that helps them remember who they are. I have this happens to me often. The diminished return is they don't realize that their participation is not required. And so they sacrifice their physical body in the pursuit of healing others. And what happens is, because the emission is so high, and it's an output from the material state of the flesh, and there's not a balanced equal point where you merge the two together, they go from yang and then they invert into yin. So you'll see traits of that where you get a lot of healers that are, I'm really clairvoyant, I'm an empath, I'm very energetic, because you're pulling in all this yin energy, and it will show itself because there's no ability to ground. And so the side effects become oppression, depression, possession. You start to see that stuff, and it starts to transmute through the person's personality. And furthermore, so you could have someone who's super intuitive and in tune. I read people, I'm a psychic, I'm a medium, I'm a channeler, but they've got none of that tactile unity that comes with embodying the lower energy centers that are necessary for you to be whole. So there's fluidity. This is what we call wu-wei, effortless action, effortless effort. That's that flow that must be ignited from the merging of all the dantians. We call them dantians. There's 9 dantians between the earth and the universe that make the seeker into whole from that fluidity. And so then we balance the excess to deficiency, emotion to virtue within the flesh, that makes it possible for you to get a clear line of embodiment. And then you're able to express it through the human experience.
Yeah. I mean, I see it exactly the same way. So when I work with people, everything happens in the body in a very grounded way. So not out there somewhere. Just because I prefer it in that way. So this is why I'm also working in that way. It's so much nicer to have it all here and not be like gone, because we still have to participate in normal life to find a good balance, So yeah, fascinating that you're seeing it the same
Because
way.
I mean, a lot of people, go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, you go,
I was
then have
just
the
going to
next
say, a
question.
lot of people, they get a what we call the bite of the spiritual dragon. So they get all excited and they activate. It's like being activated. I'm activated, but they're not refining this activation. So it's like putting your finger in an electric shock socket, and you have what most people would refer to, that's more commonly acceptable, is what they call a Kundalini experience. That, to me, is measured on the mastery. I would refer to it more as an energetic awakening. A Kundalini experience is more of a refined mastery that comes from developed skills that really embody the ability to move that energy from the physical flesh of 50 trillion cells, tapping into the 0.07 millivolts of potential, and then really harnessing it at will. And that is a real mastery. Energy activation is very potent, yet it's not clarified and it's not refined. It's just like, okay, now what? So imagine, you've got someone who's like a child, but they're being given access to drugs and alcohol. They're 2 years old and they can drink and they can smoke and they can do all these things that adults can do, yet they're not developed enough to adapt to these sort of very daunting psychological and emotional states. So they don't condition themselves, so they expand, they contract, and they internalize, and then you start to see more and more of what people would consider triggers and traumas that become embedded deep within the flesh because they're not regulating it. I like to microdose people, and I know you do too from your own admission and your own training. You microdose people so they don't have, off the rails experiences that become unable to There's no possibility of maintaining that frequency because they don't have the container for it. You must build a container that can hold that resonance as a permanence, which is what you have. That's a mastery. It's not something that, you can activate it and be face to face with it, but do you have the ability to harness that and hold it there as a sweet note that is your default? That's your default. That's who you really are. This is a potency for the audience. When you get to that point, there's a level of ascension where you just realize that your default is servitude and selflessness. It's not, you can't fight it. It's like your very action or inaction is in that same level of awareness. And no matter what, you're always giving. And from that, you're receiving. And it's like that beautiful symbiosis that is always there, yet there's this need to withdraw and contract from someone who's not aware of it because they believe they're losing a part of themselves, or they're sacrificing something that goes back to the selfishness, to the selflessness requires the sacrifice. And that is a very, very awakened word that will make someone look in the mirror and go, holy crap, sacrifice is something that I am not prepared for because it means I'm going to lose something. No, you're actually liberating. You're liberating yourself so you become even more expansive, more aware. But, people need teachers like yourself to show these people the guidance that's necessary, because as through my own admission, if there's no guidance, you can literally get caught up in equivalent to a psychotic episode that is transitory, that never amounts to anything. And I think today's equivalent would be WebMD. Have you ever heard of
WebMD? No,
WebMD?
I
Yeah.
haven't. No.
Okay, so WebMD in America is like your go-to. I got a sore throat. Let me put that in, and it will say, oh, you potentially have a cold or
Oh,
whatever.
okay.
And so what happens with the transmutation of all these experiences that we're having? They present themselves in the flesh, and they can look and experience very much like you're having, things that would be considered psychotic episodes, heart attacks, something that will affect you that you are concerned about, because that it ignites the fear that will start to raise itself. And that's that point where if you're given the right guidance, you can sacrifice that and liberate it, and you expand. You don't lay it down to a place, a person, or a thing that is the distraction that you believe that's the actual catalyst of what's going on. No, it's your cultivation that brings it to that forefront. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. And yes, guidance is very important. I had amazing guidance as well, and I'm very grateful for that. And yeah, I love to be a guide for people as well, because as you said, this fear, when there's fear coming up and you don't know what's happening, and you maybe feel energies and stuff like that, you could actually go insane or have more fear and all of that, and don't know what's happening. So guidance is really important, definitely. Yeah. And then a question was about the light being aspect. So let's go back to that a little bit.
Yeah.
Is this like, so we have the human, then there is the light being aspect, and then there is the true nature. So, and the light being aspect operates in creation, right? So in one of these dimensions that are there, and it has a story and all of that. Yeah. And so, how did you connect to your light aspect? How did this happen for you?
Well, like literally from my own admission of that roller coaster ride that I experienced 36 years ago, it all activated at once.
All
Like
at once. Okay.
I woke up and I could see every energy, every thought, every feeling on anything. Just I'd look around and it zooms in. And what you do is you start to master these things, and you put guardrails on to your own absorption at your own pace, rather than everywhere I look, I can see information and energy, and people's auras would create bubbles. Like I'd walk down the street and my aura would bump into someone else's that was like 12 feet away from me. And I'm playing bouncy ball because the potency of that substance is just there. and I can see it. And so there's nothing that can be hidden when you're at this level of awareness. And so from that, you're able to move into, anything. And furthermore, that comes down to the Shen, to the consciousness. So those levels of development acquire a deeper nature where you can move in and out like shape shifting from light body to dark body, which is two of the same. But you want more of one than the other, because the light body is the emission of all colors, and the dark body is the absorption of all colors, yet they have the same potency. And what people tend to do is they play in between their needle, going from one to the other. And so, for example, I'll give you an example. Say someone who's pursuing internal alchemy from a martial form, which many people, I want to learn Bagua, Tai Chi. I teach all these things. Sure. But the obsession is with that one aspect where they emit this energy and they embody the flesh, and then they put their foot on the gas. So they're transmitting all this energy, which can come in the form of healing and psychic abilities, all these types of sensory perceptions, yet they're not meeting the yin. And so they're completely deficient of the yin. And what happens is mortality is the end result. And you watch people, I mean, over decades, all the people that I was aware of going through these experiences 30 years ago, they're all dead because they don't meet that energy flow. And if you don't meet that energy flow, you will, and any person in the audience right now can do this for themselves. Go out, do whatever you do. If you're a judge, a police officer, a teacher, a janitor, a healer, do your day, and come back at the end of the day and see what happens to you. And in most cases, you will be able to measure it by each event, each experience through the course of that day, how much you are transmitting your own life force that can be that, what most people will consider that misdirection, because the life force is coming from the flesh, and you believe you're just tapping into, I'm Brahman, I'm consciousness, I'm one thing, but it will start to be diminished because you will see it. You'll be like, hang on, my battery's kind of low. I'm like, it's the end of the day, and I'm feeling spent mentally, emotionally. I witnessed some healings. I can see it. It's all being shown to me. Yet you're not being able to differentiate between your constitution and that of the Tao, which I would call the Tao. And so when you cannot embody that, you will be met with a barrier and a limitation. And that's where most healers, unlike yourself, and that's so potent because you came to this self-awareness so quickly, most people are met with that diminished return, and they become resentful towards the whole healing community and healing people. And their whole job was they had a job, which in essence is a problem, but they had a directive. They wanted to heal people. They want to contribute to humanity. And then the diminished return is their physical exhaustion, and then moreover the monetary element, where they're not being able to meet the basics of shelter, food, just being able to provide for yourself. And this is all because you become more and more inverted, and the more you feed these energies, they start showing you more and more evidence of that, and that's where you get down into the weeds. And
yeah,
it
I have to share. So people who are working with me, a big part of every session, every meditation I do is I open up the energy field and I help life energy to flow more. So I call it life energy because life energy is life itself, flowing through our system. And this is exactly what people then experience. There's a constant flow of life energy. It's not their energy that they give away, or, it's not them. Yeah, their energy that they give away. It's really life energy flowing through. And then life is experienced a lot more effortless, and you just go with the flow, basically. I guess this is what you're talking about as well, right? Is that what you
well,
mean?
yeah. I mean, you're showing these people this evidence. They're
Mm.
being able to, it's like they're looking at you as the mirror, and everything that is deficient within them is restored instantaneously. That potency is met with that. And it's a huge surge of wholeness that comes with this resonance that you're transmitting, and
I
people
mean,
will see it instantly.
I can see that you have like the overview of things you have is so extremely large, you know, like that you what you can see. And I'm you know exploring those areas, you know, and there are more to come. But since you've been on this path for so long and you've explored so much, there's just so much in there. I can feel it. Um, I can't put words in it or anything, you know, but it's absolutely amazing, you know, to be in your presence because then my field or yeah finds resonance in that or finds I could look into these areas as well, you know. There is more
Yeah. Oh
potentiality.
yeah. And I mean,
Yeah,
our
I love that.
reuniting our friendship is like just that's what we're here for. The student is the teacher is the student. Never ever forget that. So, our meeting is just a remembrance, and our friendship just develops more, and we're here to embody and create and develop and fortify that. And through that relationship, whatever I can do to give light to whatever is necessary for you, I'm always here for you. So that's the
Amazing.
exciting part,
Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah. Yeah, really cool. I can feel that it's definitely helping and it's needed. So thank you very much. Yeah. Yeah. Very amazing. And I have another question because you talked about all these spiritual abilities. So the clairvoyance and the distance healing and stuff like that. So I guess this is all present for you still and a lot
Oh
more
yeah. Yeah.
abilities you're
Very,
having.
very present.
Can
You
you yeah, can you talk about a few just, you know, it's
Yeah,
a lot of
sure.
fun because, you know,
Yeah,
it, for some people it's very much out there to have these abilities and it's so
yeah,
amazing that you have so many. So I would
yeah,
love to hear.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, what you tend to find is something as simple as psychic reading. I just refer to it as that because it gives someone a fundamental mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual state. And when you can walk up to someone and give them that information in a fraction of a second, and they're like, "Who the hell are you?" How is that possible? It's because it's all just right in front. It's in their field. It's in the information. It's around us at all times. And that refinement is nothing more than a mastered state of cultivation. So anyone can acquire that. It's just there's a progression. Once you meet that contraction and expansion, then you progress to the next level. So you must cultivate, and that's a key thing. Like, I would never recommend the full force overnight car wash spiritual enlightenment, the one I had. I would much prefer, and I do, help people microdose their experience, but it's still, you still get to the same area, you get to the same endpoint. um, at one point, just spirit entities, for example. I spent many years clearing harms, creating the perfect space for people. I mean, you do all this remotely, you do it in person, you're doing this all the time. Fundamentally, it evokes a whole different awareness, and these energies will come. It's like putting a shingle on your door saying open for business. And so this is what happens. I meet this quite often where most spirits will come to me and I'll have conversations with them, anywhere from like Bruce Lee to Dolores Cannon to
Yeah.
Elvis to you name it, that those entities are very present. And it's sobering when they give you information about themselves and then it shows through their experience within just what is present right now. So, say for example, I use Bruno Mars as an example. So Elvis came to me at one point, and I'm having a conversation with him, and he's like, I reincarnated in this life right now. I'm like, oh, really? With who are you? And he's like, Bruno Mars. I'm like,
Yeah.
what? And I was like, you know what? I'm like, okay, maybe. And I like to do a little bit more inquiry when I have these conversations and I see these entities because they can transmute themselves into other things. So I'm a little leery. I listen to the conversation and I have the dialogue, and then I go and do my own research, right? Funnily enough, when you go down to the Bruno Mars path, The guy literally was an Elvis impersonator for the first 10 or 15 years of his life.
Really?
And there's
Okay.
video of him. It's like, you can't make this stuff up. And it's just a charge. Like you instantly know this is the truth because you can feel it through your whole body.
Yeah.
I'm sharing this with you and you're like, holy crap, that's real. Yeah, it's 100% real. And I mean, that mastery and that tuning fork that you acquire and then you imbue and transmit into a space that gives someone the ability to access these refined, intricate energy potentials is part of the potency of just meeting you with that resonance. That's that return to whole that takes place with this energy that you're putting out. And so, I spent many years up and down the peninsula within California, within Silicon Valley, teaching people many different things, or everything from designing homes using energy grids to clearing homes from more lower frequential energies. We could call them whatever you want to call them. I just call them low frequency. You want to talk to them about being negative, demonic, whatever you want to call it. This is for the experiencer. I need people to understand. I've gone years without not experiencing a single one. Then I'll mention something and I'll have 40 people on my doorstep wanting to be exercised from a limited perspective. And really what exorcisms are is just a liberation of energy. But people tend to put specific identities to them and then they show themselves and they become more diminished in return. But ultimately, if you look at it from a whole lens, it's just a liberation of energy. Mm-hmm. So there's one specific example where I was working with this woman and there was an energy that kept presenting itself through interviews with the wife and the husband. They just adopted a daughter and she was 3 years old. They couldn't have children themselves. And through individual interviews, the husband told me about this voice that kept calling him into the kitchen at night. And he'd go in there thinking it was their daughter and there was just no one there. And then he'd be like, Daddy, Daddy. And he'd follow it to the kitchen. Nothing. He'd go back to the daughter's room. She's asleep. And then separate interview with the wife, and she was having the same experiences. And I'm like, okay, at what point were the two of you going to get together and explain yourself that you're both experienced? This is how separate. It's like, first of all, you're married and you have separate bedrooms. That's another story. I'm not going to get into counseling, but hey, look, this is going on. So the wife, I was doing a healing on her. Normally, you understand how this works. I don't really have to do anything. I could sit here and put my attention to it. You could be on the other side of the world, and instantly the energy will merge and it will materialize and fill in the gaps, whatever you're deficient in, and you will experience or miracle, healing, whatever you want to call it, mental, emotional, physical. So at that point, because I was doing in person, I would have them lay on a table and I turn the lights out so that the autonomic sort of response, they just relax and unwind. And so I was sitting in the corner of the room. This woman was on a massage table a good 15 feet away from me. And, I'm doing what I'm doing. Quite frankly, to be very full disclosure, I wouldn't do anything Latsu was doing at all. I was just a lazy lug in the corner of the room watching him. It was fascinating. So I'm sitting there, he's doing his thing. And out of nowhere, the room is pitch black. I see Latsu moving the energy through this woman. And then this bright white light opens up and it forms a doorway. And this little girl walks out and goes, Mommy, where are you? And I'm like, whoa. And this girl walks right up to me in pitch black. I mean, you can't see your hand in front of your face, but it's like light coming from this doorway. And now this girl is basically where I'm sitting. She's basically at my knees. She's like, Mommy, where is my mommy? I'm like, whoa, this is crazy. And so you start looking at the energy and I start having, well, where's your mommy? What's going on? I've been here for quite some time waiting for my mommy. I'm like, okay. I go a little deeper. She's been there since the 60s. This is like, in the 2000s, right? Mm. And I'm like, okay, what are you waiting for? I just want mommy to come and get me. I'm like, okay. Then all of a sudden, I'm starting to notice the body's starting to transform into other energies that are not as benign or as childlike as the girl. And I'm like, oh, this is interesting. I'm like, how about I have a conversation with who's really having the conversation? And then the voice dropped about 10 octaves. Yes. And I'm like, whoa. It's like, yes, I'm here because I need to take whatever energy is necessary from the family. And I'm like, okay. I get down to the conversation because when you're negotiating with these type of energies, most cases, the full circle healing is when you transmit love. That's the deficiency they're looking for. This is how it works. It's very simple. It's only a facet, but it's one component. I come to find out that this energy was controlling the uncle, and it gets even more sinister and ominous than this. I don't know. You might want to edit this or whatever. I'll add some words, or I'm just letting the audience know.
Yeah.
So the uncle murdered the daughter, raped and murdered her, and got rid of her body, and her spirit was imprinted into that space. It couldn't be left. It was attached to the soil, the foundation. It's a long story. We can go deeper into it. But I had to exercise that energy. The uncle was completely distorted. And he had been sort of sitting in purgatory, which would be seemingly not being able to return to the light and not being able to enter back into planet Earth, where he was just sort of oscillating between what he would consider complete hell and Earth itself, never returning to the light.
Mm.
And I mean, this is all variables. I don't know whether you want to know about this, but the bottom line is I had this conversation. It took me longest transformation. It was about 3 hours. And it was like, I looked like I came out of a sauna. I was like negotiating with this energy because always in 30 plus years, whenever I see something like this, the second you bring them to whole and you resonate that love, which is the aspect they're missing. This is the very aspect. Love is not whole. People need to understand that. Love is a facet of the wholeness of the diamond. People need to remember that that is one aspect. Do not just go to love expecting that you're going to find healing. That's one aspect. And this is where it's a misdirection for most people. But these type of energies are always met with that. That's the deficiency that is necessary. Of course, the young girl was able to cross over, and so was the uncle, which I would never. Personality wise, someone that gets controlled by those type of energies, I'm not really a fan of. It's not met that well, but this is my personality. That's not required for me to witness miracles. That resonance is a transmission that is wholeness. When we erase our personalities, that's a deficiency. You should never do that. It's not recommended. I like driving my side by side in the desert 100 miles an hour, eating chocolate bonbons and watching Netflix. That's not necessary to heal. It's not necessary. And, you know, when you get these type of experiences, that led me to dozens of experiences in the bowels of Chinatown in San Francisco, where I go into a storefront that would take me into a false wall, that would take me into 3 buildings that seem like they don't exist, and right down into basically a equivalent to what do you call it? An antique store that's like goes for miles. And you just imagine all the treasures that you could think of were in these antique stores. And this would dance me back and forth. Within San Francisco, there's a couple of Taoist temples within Chinatown, one specifically, the Jade Empress Palace. Love that temple, love the energy. Jade Empress, one of my teachers. And you're just constantly aware. Once you refine your sensory skills, everyone has them. You can literally, like a computer screen, hit a button and that information will present itself. If you want to become a spirit entity whisperer, where you are constantly in connection with that realm, that information, those entities will present themselves. And I believe, honestly, the more and more you refine that source information, that primordial mother, that is accessible to you at will. And you can turn it on and off, just like the symbiosis that we speak about. And so these things are constantly going on. Healing is, never ending. One quick healing session. One woman had a huge cyst the size of a golf ball, not a golf ball, a watermelon on her breast because she was breastfeeding. And I turned up to her place, and her husband, myself, and her witnessed when I hit the resonance. It swelled, the flesh swelled up even more. It became super red. Then a literally a gap, an opening in her flesh opened up, and about a liter of pus poured out of her chest. And I was just like,
Without
all of us,
touching, without touching it.
without
Yeah.
touching. It's
Okay.
like, and I'm like, this is unbelievable. Then it sealed back up in front of our eyes.
Okay.
And
And
so
I have a
that is
question.
crazy. I could see right into her chest. It was wild.
So, meaning you have the openness that instant healings can happen, because this is, for example, something I have a limitation for in my system. So for me, it's always an unfolding of things. Like, things take time. So this is my limitation, and I love that
Yeah.
you talk about this. Although, for what I do, it's like you said, the microdosing. I think it's a good way to go. But
Yeah.
healing the body, which is not something I usually do. Like, it's not the type
Right.
of healing I do. But
Yeah.
if I wanted to do it, yeah, I would also want to do instant healings. So I have to
Right.
get rid of the limitation that it takes time. Yeah.
And there's a reason you're clearly calling for it, and you're going to be met with it, because that's part of our relationship, is you remembering that facet of your diamond. You
Mm.
know, I mean, just most recently, my youngest son died in my wife's arms for 2 minutes,
Oh,
and my 5 children and myself. Now, as a father, I should be emoted to want to, oh my goodness, my son's dead. What's going on? I watched his spirit leave his body, and he became lifeless for 2 minutes straight. And my wife is a little bit more, she was emotional. But anyone watches me, nothing moves the needle. You'd be like, are you emotionless? Do you have no feeling? Because I instantly meet that energy. And my 5 kids huddled together through the training I gave them, and we all drew his spirit back into his body. And it was like instant. The second the spirit came back in, it was like he came back to life. And it was,
wow.
I've transitioned hundreds of people from end of life to rebirth within a scenario where, in most cases, it's around a family, and I'm taking them through the ritual of exiting the physical flesh and returning to whole in another state. Now, that's a beautiful thing to watch.
Mm.
But I must tell you, in retrospect, after experiencing it, because I meet it instantly. I'm in the now moment. It doesn't matter whether it's my son or someone, a stranger. I meet the same thing where you would look at me and think I was just like emotionless, but I go straight to the energy. It doesn't require my personality. I just witness it. And so this type of witnessing, in retrospect, after I went through it, I was able to process it. And it was like, there's nothing more sobering as a parent to witness the death of a child. And it was necessary for my own healing. It was absolutely wild.
Yeah.
Absolutely wild. I was really moved by my children. They all literally huddled together. Instead of panicking, they started performing all the techniques and the training that I gave them. And we all drew his spirit right back in. But I must tell you, my friend, there was a moment. It's like, in retrospect, looking at that going,
Yeah.
if I had to have allowed my personality to control the show, I may not have seen my son again,
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
from this physical lifetime.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, and he's only 1 year old, so it's like it was absolutely wild. And as
And
a
how
parent,
is he? How is he
oh,
now?
he's
Like,
100%.
yeah.
He's like,
Okay.
and literally minutes after that massive event, he's playing like he's the happiest baby in the world, and that is so profound to watch.
Yeah.
It's a regulation. It was an upgrade. He actually, it was, there was a healing I was going to do because he had a little bit of a rash that he was transmitting as he was growing in and out of that symbiosis through the body. You will meet certain things that are part of the deficiencies of your own path. And he had a specific eczema that he had in his arms. I was going to do a healing on. The second this was met, it was gone instantaneously. It's like you look at it and go, I could take photos of it and you think, oh my goodness, that's horrible. That's a horrible eczema. Instantly gone.
Okay.
Instantly. And it's like, this is just meeting the frequency. It's immediate. It's how it works. There's no exceptions to the rule, but you have to have that knowing. It's like when I tell people, and you understand this. So I tell people, especially when it comes to, entities, and I get a lot of people that want to be badass exorcists and all this stuff. Like, that's fine. If you become obsessed with that, that's fine. I can teach you the fundamentals, but understand this, you're creating this, right? And so people become sort of a little fixated on one aspect of healing instead of embodying the whole thing. And then what happens is it all returns to you. That means there's nothing that is not accessible. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense, although I'm not experiencing it. But I feel like I will eventually, but it sounds absolutely amazing. So absolutely amazing what you're sharing. So thank you very much. Yeah. You're opening up so much possibilities there. That's amazing. Yeah. And your son. Yeah, definitely. And so your son received an upgrade. This is why he left the body.
Oh yeah.
And you had to bring him back, like he wouldn't have come back by himself?
Oh, he wouldn't have come back. No, he wouldn't have come back. And what I think was really sobering was it happened so fast. It happened so fast to like, oh, we've got nothing, there's nothing going on, to gone. And like, if you're not ready to meet that, you'll unravel. You'll lose your mind.
Yeah.
And you could be experiencing an actual loss of one of your loved ones furthermore. And look, I've just personally never experienced loss to that degree, because that's my youngest son.
Yeah, I mean, losing a child must be the hardest thing as a human you can experience, losing a child.
1,000,000%. And it was only until I had to experience it after the fact, because during it wasn't happening. It was like I was just meeting the energy. My needle wasn't being moved. But this is part of what we call, you must pass, there's a point of no return where you detach and attach. That means that no matter what the circumstance, that resonance that's your default, you can have personality. It still returns to that resonance. And that's a mastered state of acquisition.
Yeah, I mean, I experienced this to a very small degree, of course. I mean, I have a young daughter, and things are happening. Like, I'm not gonna, just little, not accidents really, but something like it, And there's just the action, the system is still, and there's the action to help her, and that's it. Like, there is no reaction, no emotions or anything from the body, which is, this is what you're talking about, and it's it's so great to have that, because then you just do what's necessary and that's it. Like, there is no interference with the human is not interfering. And I always wonder, because how, like, you've been on this path for so long, how much is your human still interfering with who you are? I mean, you have your personality, you probably have aspects of your personality that, let's say, they're like shadow sides, or they're not as amazing as others. How do you deal with that? Or is this still a thing? Like, do they still play out? I'm just curious. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, every day when I open my eyes, I have a brief moment of that. I might be sampling the environment, the world stage, the environment that I live in. And there will be a moment where I'm inhaling that frequency that is fragmented, that is a distortion of other people's experiences. But it only takes me a second to remember that is not the truth. And then the fluidity never leaves itself. So when I say your participation is not required, when you understand this and embody it, that means that I can have the operation of my personality 24/7, and people will be like, wow, this priest is kind of a little rough. He swears and he does this and he does that, because that is not the truth. The universe doesn't have a moral compass. It's all frequential. And so our distorted version of those things determine what our experience is, or how we are walking that path or being distracted from that path by the lens of our perception. And that can only be met with a mastered state of resonance. And you're showing examples of that, where when you had an event with your daughter and you were not, the needle was not moved from a humanistic perspective, where you're reacting, not responding. And so when you're reacting, the diminished return will be what you want and desire so badly from a heightened level of inversion will result in never being able to obtain it, which is some of the deficiencies and fundamentals of why people apply certain techniques in relation to manifestation and healing that never materialize to anything. Because it's like you want it so bad, you reach for it and it disappears, because you're not being able to sit in the center of the merging of those energies. You are either yang or yin. It's too extreme. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And can you maybe share how you stay in the center point all the time, like how you do that, and how long it took you to find it and to stay there? Because now you're just there, but there were probably times when you went to yin and yang and then center point and so forth,
Yeah.
So how long did it take that you were the center point at all times, like at all times? Is that the case, right? Is it there all the time?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, to be honest with you, I got the crash course when I first started 30 years ago. And then I needed to make sense of it and have a method to teach others. But I've pretty much been there for the last 30 years or so. And it doesn't, what you have to identify with to make this a permanence is that every day you wake, it's a new day. Every day you wake is as if it was the first time you ever realized the potency of this now moment. And then you will be enriched by it, and it will continually flow. And that symbiosis will be completing and creating at all times that default. But to get down to the nuts and bolts and how I teach people is you must refine the alchemy. And once that alchemy is permanence, you can direct the energy any way you want. And that means the energy has vibratory frequential resonance. Once that's obtained, it's your default. So you could see me at face value. I could go off my face as a personality, swearing and screaming and whatnot, and you're thinking, oh my goodness, this person's unhinged. Yet in that same moment, you're going to witness a miracle or a healing that you can't possibly associate the personality with the event. It doesn't make any sense, yet it's happening. And you're like, how does that even happen? Because the misdirection is it's never as it seems. This is part of the relationship between yin and yang in this material state is when you're going one way, you're really going the other. So the contracting and expanding, the bellows that we talk about within Taoism, that's reality, is you're contracting and expanding at the same time. That means that your glass, if you think it's half empty, is actually full. And that's that part where you sober up. And the more conscious you become of that, your glass is always full and it will never stop. And it's just that moment where you have to be accountable and realize that that is the now moment. There's no past, no future. It's just now. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's part of my teaching as well, just using different words, but yeah, definitely resonates. And yeah, very amazing. Thank you very much for sharing. Yeah. And I have actually another question. So La Tzu, he's here, right? So what's your relationship to him? So you met him 30 years ago when you did this channeling, and he's been there since. So is he like guiding you, or are you like, is he giving you information and stuff like that? Like, what's your relationship?
100%. Like how I refer to my relationship with Lao Tzu is like the dialogue to the monologue. Lao Tzu is also a messenger. He is a messenger and a teacher that shares that resonance of completion. So I'll have that same relationship. I have 171 other teachers that I lean on, but his is an intimate relationship that is a second by second basis, which just reinforces things, because this is how you go from what we start is the spark of divinity, which we refer to as desire. Desire forms inquiry. Inquiry then creates contemplation. Contemplation then nurtures curiosity. Curiosity births hopium. Hopium is a potent thing for any journey seeker. And that hopium then forms a belief system. That belief system is then met with experience. That experience will now determine your knowing. That's how you develop this ascended state. And so Lao Tzu, I honestly can say this without a doubt, without him and without me being able to hear his voice and see him, I would be in a loony bin. There's no question. And so part of these things, part of your mastery and your own self-realization, but I also attribute it to my relationship as a young boy with my imagination, which is part of a developed skill that you acquire within the alchemy process of Taoism, is you nurture and blossom your imagination, which has 81 colors. And those 81 colors form this fortified, dense portal that cannot be shaken. And you enter that and it will reveal everything to you. And so that imagination was sparked for my remembrance of who I was when I was a young boy. And then I forgot to tell you, I was hit by a car when I was 8. I died and I came back to life. So that was a 40-minute journey where I literally was hit by this car head on. I left the body. I witnessed my mother run to my lifeless body and mourn my death for 40 minutes until they put my body down on a bed in the hospital and I was drawn back in. I was like Peter Pan flying in the air. It was so amazing.
Oh my
And
goodness.
this is the kind of magic and stuff that takes place. And this is what you and I share with others, is that remembrance and being able to attune to that resonance. And so Lao Tzu, yes, is my teacher. There's no question. And, everyone will access that higher state of source. That's the general purpose, and the directive and mandate that is given to me every day through the teaching that I share is to have the individual seeker, whoever is present, to help them remember who they are through their own self-realization. And these techniques are to develop those skills, and we all have them. There's no exception to the rule. And even though you and I have had this experience, and it, for most people, they're like, well, what didn't I drink or eat that you guys are right here? It's just a matter of our own self-realization in this lifetime, but we're here to help you remember. And that's the potency of it. The more and more people surrender, sacrifice this idea of what they perceive as reality. Furthermore, it's Jade Emperor will always say this: when you accept you know nothing, you know everything, which comes back to that symbiosis. It's like, where are you at? Is your glass half empty or half full? And then it presents itself. Or furthermore, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And then, sure enough, this relationship, student is the teacher, teacher is the student, this symbiosis is nothing more than a transmuted divine spark of knowing. And we are deciphering that code through our relationship as our Sherlock to our Watson, to keep going on that another crumb and more evidence, more result, more experience that then solidifies the knowing. But I always suggest that people should cultivate this and develop these skills, because I believe so intensely as a young boy in superheroes and spirits and all that kind of stuff. It was so easy to access it as a knowing when I was activated. And there's no difference. It's like, if you meet these requirements, you will be revealed also. Everything will be revealed to you. And it's a matter of just getting in and feeling that tactile effect, and use that incredible currency that everyone uses. It's the material state. This is energy. This is electric and magnetic. And this is what we're operating in. So when people want to ascend and I want to get out of here, you're still operating in that currency, and you need to honor that. You need to value that and realize that that is the potency of how you fortify and make it your reality, your truth, your knowing, your absolute truth through that mastery of that the energy potential. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean it's a lot of information, but it definitely makes sense. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, absolutely amazing what you're sharing. So and what's your offering? Can you share with people what you're offering since you talked about this?
In what sense?
Yeah, I mean, what services? Like what
Oh,
can
okay,
yeah.
yeah, absolutely. So, um, I always, I'm always open to student applications. People always hit me up for applications. Right now, I just finished up a page where all the services that are provided, everything from transmissions from Latsu, conversations with Latsu, to altar activations, portals. I mean, I'll give you the link to that
Yeah.
page, and then you can, whatever people are curious in, they can find it there, and evoke their own knowing through that potency.
Yeah, amazing. I don't know if you're open for that because we didn't speak about it before, but I know you channel a lot too. Like, are you up for doing a little channeling for us or not? I don't know. Are you?
Yeah, yeah. It's one of those intimate things. At this point, I would say no, but
Okay.
yeah, I do. It's like a I would love to come back or have you back on my channel, and I'll just do it.
Okay.
And his relationship is, it's always there. Here's the thing: I think what Eva's feeling is that heat and that density that is present, because he is present, and that's the potency of anyone that's here.
Yeah.
And it's I tend to it's a very intimate relationship, and even more so, I enjoy the relationship, and he's always forthcoming, but then he also allows my personality to get very um reserved. It's like such a sacred gift for me that I like to put it into context for the journey, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
So let's say, for example, this audience right now, you and I are here, we're communing with this experience, and just bringing his energy in, you can feel it right now. And
Yeah.
then it becomes very robust, and it feels like a little thunder, a little expansive electric magnetic potential. And that's in the now moment. So that fortified density, the wholeness that we're experiencing, is his presence. And if you start to look at it as a transmuted effect, you will feel it through a visceral effect where it is now vibrating through my flesh. This is the true nature of this. Of course, if you want to not allow yourself, you can hold it right there. But it is taking place, and it is moving in an infinity sign. So if we're starting to move this, it's moving like this. This is the energy that's coming out right now through our bodies. And
Yeah,
more
I feel
so,
it,
just
it has been there for a while. It comes out through my hands and everywhere. So yeah, throughout our conversation, it's
right, because that's the potency. and
Mhm.
and um we will go there. You'll have your time with Latsu, more intimate in firsthand questions, anything that you choose to ask him.
All right.
Which technically
Sounds great.
he makes me look smart. I'm really as dumb as rocks, but
I'm sure you're not. Yeah, but yeah, very amazing. I mean, you have a YouTube channel and there are channelings as well. If people are interested, they can check it out. I also put it the channel below the video. So yeah, I mean, this is all just very exciting for me and you know, opening up to all these possibilities that you were sharing. And yeah, I'm just very happy that you were here and that we are able to sit in this amazing energy and everybody gets whatever they need, right? So yeah, thank you so much. Yeah.
it's my pleasure, my dear friend. I'm very grateful for you, and igniting and reigniting and remembering our own bond that we've had in past lives, and it shows itself in this lifetime, and that's why it's so it meets with that resonance. Strangely enough, I'm going to be doing a channeling on a dear friend of mine's channel, Cryon. Have you heard of Cryon? Lee
Yeah.
Carroll. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm going to be channeling Lutzu on his channel
All
in
right.
the next month or so. So I got an invitation there. So that'll be interesting. And then, of course, you see it. You can see it through my channel. You can experience it. You probably have yourself. It's very potent. It's very real. And
Yeah.
it's now.
Yeah. Amazing. Very exciting. So thank you very much for being here. I think we coming to an end for this episode. So I hope you will be back one day,
Oh,
sometimes
of
in the
course.
future. It would be so
Absolutely,
amazing.
my friend.
So thank you for being here. I really, really appreciate this conversation and all the information that came through. And yeah, thank you everybody for listening. Thank you.